I think we might be at the precipice of an existential crisis in our industry. When something like healthcare overwhelms the organization as much as it is today, it is a cancer within the organization, a financial cancer, something that is threatening the life of these organizations.
Employers are now demanding, they're getting frustrated and
Right.
they're demanding change.
That's right. It needs to happen, but it's going to be a Herculean effort.
Welcome to Healthcare on Trial, the podcast for anyone ready to stop accepting a system that was never designed to work for them. I'm so excited. Thank you for
having me.
with me. This is going to be so much fun. And before we dive into all the things and everything, can you introduce yourself and maybe walk through a little bit of your background? Who's Randy? Where'd you come from?
Oh, man.
Go as far back as you'd like to.
Okay, well, I will try to keep it succinct. So my name is Randy Ryder. I work for an organization called Hub International. I'm an executive vice president. And I've been here for about 20 years, consulting on employee benefits programs for our clients. I think you had asked where I started, how I got here. I think like most professionals in insurance, I had a family member who was in insurance and led me down the path. Told me at the beginning, he said, look, just do it for like 3 years and then turn back and see if you actually like what you're doing. And I did. I beat my head against the wall for 3 years and then decided at the end of it that I actually liked what I was doing. I love the people we're serving. I love what we can do to help people, and not only at the organizational level, but the employee level. Did
you start in California? Did you start in Oregon? Because I know you're from Oregon, but maybe give a little bit of where you grew up, and then we'll dive into the insurance world. And I want to know which family member, because now people go to college for this stuff, Randy.
You got to help them. No, that was not a path for me. It was not even an option for me. But yeah, I grew up in Oregon. And then as I was a biology and chemistry major, I was going to go be a doctor, and realized toward the end of that the healthcare world from that perspective was just a real challenge. And not to get too far into it, but I started a club in our school, a little tiny postage stamp called Linfield University, which was a great school. But started this club called Future Physicians of America. And I wanted to be a doctor. I needed access to people who knew how to be a doctor and what that would be like. And then brought a bunch of doctors in from local hospitals and Oregon Health Sciences University and other places. And to a person, every single one of them said, don't do this. In certain words, don't do this. And it only takes a few times of hearing that again and again and again and really kind of dissecting it with the individuals that are saying it to go, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe it's not the rose-colored, glasses that I thought it was. And I didn't intend to be on the other side of the world, but here I am after having talked to my uncle, to answer your other question, who was in the insurance world. And I mean, this is probably nonsense, but I was talking to him and he goes, hey, Randy, you like going to lunches with your friends? I mean, yeah, I love going to lunches with my friends. I like going to, if they're Blazers games with your friends. Yeah, I love going to Blazers games. Randy, you like going skiing with your friends? Yeah. Oh my gosh, what do you do? What do you actually do for a living? And he's like, I'm in insurance. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm in. And it's obviously none of that. I mean, there's some fun things, but yeah, he knew how to sell a 22-year-old kid who didn't know his way.
This sounds like the making of a skit for Self-Funded with Spencer, the Tom Broker series.
Yeah, it could. It definitely could be. Plug for Spencer.
There you go. What type of doctor did you want to be? Did you know, or were you trying to figure that out? That's why you created that organization.
I was looking at what I wanted to do. I always had this kind of bend as being an athlete toward like orthopedic surgery or sports medicine in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, again, like I had talked to these people who I was really, really idolizing at the moment. And every one of them said, look, there are a bunch of people who don't have any business telling me what to do all day, every day, telling me I can't do this, I have to do this, when I think it should be less of this, more of this, less of this, more of this. And it, you could just kind of tell that it was a really challenging space for them. I had one guy tell me, look, I bought a building, started my practice, and made way more on having bought the building and renting out the extra space than I did in my practice. And he said, just go buy real estate, go do that instead. And that was like a doctor telling me, like, just don't do it. And it's for an impressionable youth. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, I understand, because like when I went to, like, I'd always decided, since I think I've shared this with you before, I decided I was going to be a death penalty criminal defense attorney from the time that I was 8 years old. And like was on this path, criminology, undergrad, psychology, double major added, like going to law
This
school.
all tracks, by the way.
Right? Oh. And I just like because I was like working full time and going to school full time, and I got a little burnt out, like trying to manage both, because it was like 18-hour days for, a 5-year stretch, basically.
Yeah.
I took some time off in between, but I was at a pharmaceutical company and then ended up getting into the insurance space. I went to go work for a United Health Group.
Yeah.
And I took the 4 years off, but I still, went back to law school because I like wasn't going to let go of this like life goal I had. It's just interesting how your path shapes where you eventually get to, and it's the right thing for you. But I went to law school, and then any attorneys you would talk to, they're like, wait, sorry, you have how many years of experience doing what you're doing? You want to go bill for hours and start over again? and do something that has nothing to do with everything you've built since you've worked since you were 15. Now you're approaching almost 10 years of experience in the field that you're in.
Yeah.
Why would you go start over? Like, why don't you just...
in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of that. At first I was like a little taken aback because I wasn't going to let go of this. And then did like the Innocence Project on like a volunteer basis under a professor. Loved it, but then quickly realized that I will die of a heart attack before the age of 30 if that was the profession I chose. So,
well, I'm glad that you did not do that.
Yeah,
we need you.
We don't. I'm well past the age of 30 now, so I lived and stayed in the insurance space and kept going. But it's interesting how these, your uncle, even though he kind of enticed you with like the positives of some of the work that he did. It's interesting how people who are so influential in our lives when we're being shaped, like I had mentors and different people within United Health Group at the time and outside that I would work with, who were like, stay in the industry. Here's what you should do next. Here's our recommendation on what you should do. And that really shapes your professional path and career. And everything I learned and everything you learned, even in your undergrad, even though it's very technical, probably informs how you think and how you approach situations and problems. Like I know my training, I approach things very differently than maybe one of my counterparts would. And it just shapes your approach and who you are and kind of becomes a baseline.
It's, I have always been a fan of this kind of liberal arts education, right? As kind of just a basis for life. Like we should learn a lot about a lot of stuff and then figure out where we want to be and what we want to do, because this piece over here that might seem completely like mutually exclusive from the thing that we might be doing actually probably has some really interesting ties and makes you better for that. And I think that like, I mean, most of my life is just a series of serendipitous events. And I feel like having had that background and understanding where I am today, I wouldn't change a thing. Understanding like just having an intelligent conversation with somebody about like, hey, this is the thing that is going on with one of your high cost claimants, and having the ability to speak moderately intelligently about that, I think helps to make me a better consultant. And your background, your ability to understand information and dissect it, and of course, I think look at it critically, is probably shaped by your background. Yeah.
Issue spotting and then analysis and so on.
Yes, there we go.
There's no shortage of problems to solve in our industry. That's for sure.
We could talk about this, but maybe as a baseline for the conversation, I honestly think that we are at I think we might be at the precipice of an existential crisis in our industry. And we talked about this before, and we've talked about it many, many times before, but there are too many organizations out there that are trying to do great things in whatever their industry might be. Their automotive industry, they're not-for-profit, they're a school, they're whatever. They woke up to do something that they're really passionate about doing. And when something like healthcare overwhelms the organization as much as it is today, I think there's a breaking point. There's got to be a breaking point.
Yeah.
It's growing, and this sounds really, really extreme, but it is a cancer within the organization, a financial cancer, something that was there, but is growing out of control and is threatening the life of these organizations.
The model of how costs have been controlled is not, there isn't any cost control. So it's a runaway train with Band-Aids and toothpicks. Like I think what we talked about earlier is kind of paralleling it to the ACA subsidies, and that the fact that there needs to be subsidies, but all Americans, working Americans, those getting coverage through the exchanges, cannot afford health insurance unless it's subsidized by someone, whether it's the employers that they work for in all or part, or the government through the ACA. So if it's inherently unaffordable, it's almost like a parallel to the carrier premium holidays that they give, where it's like, we're going to Band-Aid this. Renewal's too high. Great. We're going to give you a credit, but then your renewal's then based on a higher number again. But what happens when those credits go away? What happens when the cost of the premium outlier becomes so big that they can't afford it and they can't do anything about it, and it puts their businesses at risk as a result?
It absolutely does. Well, and so many of the solutions that we have today are those kind of it's vapor. It makes it look tolerable. It makes it look, even to people who aren't looking very closely, like good, if you will, in the moment. But ultimately, the same thing is just being perpetuated over and over again, year after year, and this little Band-Aid will be put over this to placate the person who's purchasing it. Meanwhile, underneath that, somebody's making a lot of money. And making more and more and more every single year.
And we've talked about this plenty of times. I feel like you've heard me say this over 1,000 times probably at this point. Employers are hitting, if they haven't already, they're starting to hit those breaking points.
That's the existential crisis I'm talking about.
Yeah. And how do we help them solve for that, right? Because it's almost an area they want to avoid. Like, it's the cancer within the financial cancer within the organization that they can't do anything about, or they feel like they've never been able to do anything about it. So they avoid it. And then now it's too big of a cost to where anyone can turn their eye away from it. So how do we, like, so we talked a little bit about you kind of getting into California, then we went straight into it. When you're like, a lot of your clients and a lot of your prospects are here in California, but like the supply is probably nationwide, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking to employers now, especially in the California market, what is the perspective? Like, do they understand that there is a thing? Because like there was a point in time, and you were one of the early adopters on this, on doing self-funding in a market that's so fully insured, saturated.
Right.
What is the perspective from employers now when you're meeting with them? Like, do they understand self-funding when you're explaining it to them? Or are there still some that you meet with who are hearing that there is a different way to finance healthcare?
So it's a mixed bag, but I think that if I had to apply kind of a universal persona to it, first of all, let me back all the way up. I think that the architects of the complexity of this industry that are probably benefiting from the complexity of this industry have done a really, really good job of it. They're not silly. They're not stupid. They're doing it really, really well. And the reason I say that is because the people who we are having conversations with about a better way to do this, a way that has more transparency, more flexibility, the ability to actually influence and control your costs in a much more meaningful way, as opposed to insulating yourself, burying your head in the sand, and just hoping it goes away. The people who are that we're talking to about that better solution are still influenced by that I got a half-month premium holiday. And that makes this problem go away, so I can, and to their credit, so I can just go be a better school. So I can just go be a better not-for-profit. So I can just go be the people that I want to be and make the widgets I want to make, because that's all I want to do. And so they're not wrong in wanting to just go do this. But again, meanwhile, this thing is just metastasizing within them, and it's killing the organization. Again, we talked about this before, but like the healthcare industry in 2010, I read a study, was a $2.5 trillion spend. And this last year, it was over $5 trillion. And that is all being borne in the healthcare costs that organizations are having to pay for now. And if we just continue to do the same thing over and over again, 10 years from now, the rule of 72-ish, right, says that this is going to double again plus. if you're an organization out there, can you sustain that? Can you sustain this gigantic bottom line item doubling again?
The system is working exactly the way it was designed to
100%.
work. It is not broken.
Right.
Third
Not
largest,
for the people who made it.
Yep. And healthcare is what, the third largest economy in the world? Healthcare in the United States is the third largest economy
Which
in
is
the world.
crazy to even think about.
Yeah.
But that's right.
And this is all being funded. What is it, like 180 million people get their coverage through their employers in this country.
Right.
And
those poor employers have been saddled with this, like, somebody's got to subsidize it. Like you said, you guys who just woke up to make widgets.
Yep.
Like, no, it's your responsibility to now take care of this huge, gigantic problem.
Unlike us, their day jobs are not to be insurance experts and figure out what to do.
Right.
And some of the challenges are, one, the cost is just unsustainable to the point of, like, they're hitting their existential crisis, the tipping point, the breaking point of not being able to do it, where they're going to have to do something drastic, right? If they keep letting it escalate, or they're not going to be able to offer healthcare coverage at some point because of the astronomical costs associated with it.
Right.
So how can they find a way to take control and be able to, when it doesn't feel like it's so complicated, right? Because even pulling back the curtain on a fully insured plan to an employer and you start to explain the nuances, you're going to watch them gloss over, right?
We've done it many, many times, unfortunately. And again, that's totally understandable.
Are you seeing a shift in the market at all, or a shift with employers where they are, like, understanding more or asking more questions, or understanding that there's a possibility of a different way?
Yeah, I think because, again, the pressure is building so much that there's a demand internally at most organizations from probably C-suite finance executives on the people who historically were just like, I want to take care of my employees. Now that this cost is so high for that organization, I think that a lot of HR professionals are starting to ask very intelligent questions. And that's maybe a benefit of something that otherwise is pretty negative. But people are getting really, really astute about this and understanding a lot more about trying to understand a lot more about what this is, and then how can we go about this. And then I think in some situations, the pressure builds so much that the things that were intolerable before and wouldn't be a consideration, like assuming some risk, are now like, okay, well, let's talk about that thing you told me about 5 years ago that was a non-starter then, because things have come to a point where that's a conversation we should be having.
And they have to. And I feel like we're going to reference a lot of past conversations throughout this.
Love it. We haven't changed much. We're all still like, here we go.
Let's do it. I like, even just thinking about, like, an employer's perspective, when they're hearing about it for the first time, it's overwhelming. It sounds complicated, right? Because this isn't something they want to build, they want to teach, they want to do the things that they started their companies or a part of whatever they've chosen as their professional career that really fills their cup and fulfills them.
Yeah.
They don't want to go through the nuances of insurance necessarily, but they do care about the people that they employ and their families.
That's right.
And they want to find a way to offer them something that it should be a way to, even though attract and retain talent seems to be sort of a buzzword to a degree.
Sure.
It is a tool. Like, they have to offer coverage to be even on par with competition or be able to bring people into their company. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a sore spot. So are you starting to see, it sounds like you're starting to see a shift in understanding or, like, knowledge base with employers, because it's taken about 3 to 5 years.
So the conversation that we're having, and just to clarify this whole thing, the conversations that we're having right now are really twofold. We cannot continue doing the same thing that we've always done and expect different results. But for a lot of organizations, that is, you've been fully insured for 100 years. Every conversation that you've had with a broker or a consultant, probably a broker, previously has been just a fractional derivation off of the thing you did before. And you're doing that because, well, we've always done it like this. And I think that the real conversation needs to be a wholesale revision, whiteboarding of how we do this. How do we fund these claims that are happening? And let me go on a tangent here for a second. When we get down to the essence of what we're doing, right, we're paying for claims that are happening. Unless you're in a really, really small group that, claims and experience doesn't truly matter. But if you're over 100 employees in California, it does. all we're doing right now is paying for the babies that are being made and the broken ankles and the illnesses that are being hospitalized, those types of things. And if you distill it down to that basis, then we can understand that what we're trying to do is find the best, most cost-effective way to pay for those things. And fully insured platforms, I think, wholesale are proven to be an inefficient way to do that. Certainly from a cost perspective, but also from just a longevity and a bespoke, flexible plan design perspective. I didn't say that very well, but the ability to control your outcomes are just so limited in a fully insured environment. And many organizations, I think, are starting to realize that there's just a better way. So the second thing that I was kind of referencing before, I think organizations are realizing that the cost is so big that we can't turn our attention away from the fact that we need to be able to help our people. So I think in 2026, we're starting to see already this groundswell of this desire to help our people with chronic conditions, which many studies show 90% of claims costs are driven through a chronic type condition. So how do we do that? And I think the answer to that in large part is going to be a really individualized, bespoke solution for each individual through things like functional medicine, where we can identify what the root causes are of issues that we're having, and then address those issues for the members that are experiencing those, which a majority of people are. If we can, then we're talking about reducing the claims that are happening today, but also then paying less for the claims that are happening anyway. Right? So it's kind of a win here. Organization can finally start to get their hands around claims and spend.
It's in a fully insured setting, because all the decision points are owned by the carrier.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's been like the power has been taken from the employers in that setting, right? Yeah. Where they're deciding whether you have IVF coverage or not. They're deciding what things are covered. They're deciding which doctors, what center of excellence you have to go to. It's all controlled, and all the decision points were never. The employers have never been allowed to decide how the benefit plan design and the solutions that are there, how that can be constructed, how they can work alongside their consultant to construct exactly what they need, that not only are they now going to save, but they also can help their people through functional medicine solutions. And I'm a huge fan of functional medicine.
We should get into it.
I've been down that pathway, and we could probably spend the rest of our time together talking about that, because we have a sick care system. We've heard that a lot.
That's absolutely true.
We're all medicated on drugs.
Yep.
I think you said this earlier. We're fed garbage out of boxes.
Yeah.
And we get sick, and then it's treatment of those conditions.
Yeah.
I've so kind of flipping to like a little bit of the medical side. Now I'm going to go on a tangent with you.
I love it. Please.
I had seen a provider where we were trying to diagnose, because I have hypo and hyperglycemic swings due to insulin resistance from having polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is PCOS for short, because I don't want to have to say that again now. I have swings, and I was having a lot of hypo events where my blood sugar was dropping into the 40s, 30s, 20s, and you can have a seizure, you can go into a coma, like it's pretty serious. Right. I saw a provider, and I waited almost a year to see this provider to figure out, like, it likely could be some things called insulinomas, which could be inside my pancreas, right?
Okay.
So apparently the way to diagnose for those is to hospitalize you for 72 hours, instigate a hypo event, if you will. I don't think that's the technical term, but that's my term for it.
We're tracking.
A hypo event, and then them confirm it that you have essentially these like masses in your pancreas or whatever that are producing too much insulin or not the right level that are causing these events to occur. And then they need to go find the insulinomas and where they are and remove them. And it actually treats it.
Okay.
I waited to see this provider. We went through this whole situation. It's likely that, but that's a surgery, and the testing. We like to go home at 6 o'clock every day. How bad do you really feel? We don't like. Maybe you need to find a facility that has like an intern sleeping on the floor, so that they would want to run the test, because this isn't really something we do. Like, how bad do you really feel? And then went through this like Harry Potter questionnaire or something. It was wild. But I was sitting there listening to him trying to prescribe me another 3 medications to be on and send me on my way.
Answer for everything.
He took my other prescription and tied it to his office. So I had to come back to him in order to get a fill.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm a cash cow. And I just listened, and he said, we'll schedule your follow-up, and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. I said, I don't want you to prescribe those drugs.
Right.
And I don't think we align on our care philosophy.
This hasn't been the experience I was looking for.
Yeah, we don't align on care philosophy. Yeah. I'll let you know if I want to have a follow-up appointment, but I probably need to think on this. And I left that appointment so friggin' disappointed. Like, I waited almost a year to figure out what's been going on. And this is the answer.
Man, that's got to be devastating.
So,
to some degree.
100%. So flip that to, I started working with root functional medicine through another shout out to Spencer, an introduction through Spencer Smith. And they are phenomenal. So we went through a variety of testing with me, and really it's management of my condition through exercise, diet, and really tailoring my diet also around my lifestyle, right? I travel a lot. I'm on the move a lot. I can't, I can't curate meals for myself and eat 5 meals at home per day.
Right.
But just tweaks, like I worked with their dietitian, I worked with their doctor. They did an extensive panels I have never had done before in a traditional setting to really understand what the root drivers are.
Yeah.
Things like getting down to your particle levels on your cholesterol particle sizes.
Yeah.
They determined that I actually had they ran a food sensitivity panel, an allergy panel. I was allergic to everything I'm eating. Everything.
And you had no idea.
All food. Reactive.
All food.
All food. That's reactive. So one of the things they determined was I have a very high gluten sensitivity. I might have celiacs, frankly, for the level of so we removed gluten from my diet, lactose from my diet. So my gut isn't consistently inflamed 24/7 where I can't absorb nutrition.
In just fight or flight mode entirely.
And blood sugar dropping all the time because I'm not absorbing nutrients, all those things. If I have anything, Randy, now that has gluten in it, whether I know or not, sometimes a sauce or something in a restaurant I am horrendously sick within 20 minutes. Like, I will know if there's gluten in something, whether they tell me or not.
So the crazy part about this is that you were always that.
Yes.
You were always walking around sick. You just now have gotten to a point, it would seem to me, that you feel good enough that is now different. And measurably different so that you can notice it. Otherwise, you were just walking around and feeling that all the time, potentially.
Yeah. They did testing to check the, bacteria in your stomach. Let's point out the technical term for it again, but the balance of things. We did a gut reset as well because my balance was completely off, as you can imagine, based on what I had been eating.
For sure. Without knowing it.
When to eat protein for how I feel throughout the day, how to control the blood sugar swings, et cetera. And I've been very stable in where I think I've only had 2 or 3 hypoglycemic events since I've started working with them.
But that sounds
and it was because of me.
That sounds like a lot of work. Wouldn't you rather just take a bunch of pills?
No. No, I don't.
That is the solution. To live a better, healthier life. And I don't even know, I can't imagine that we could speculate on what that's going to do for you long-term versus dumping a bunch of pills down your throat that, again, that doctor was just seeing as kind of his flow of cash.
And I feel better. My mind is sharper.
100%.
I'm more present.
Yeah.
My anxiety levels are lower. There's all these things that were tied to diet. When I eat protein, they had recommended at one point, because I was, we're kind of, their dietitian reviews diet with you regularly. And I've worked with solutions before where they give you the off the shelf, here's the thing, and it's got cheese and all this stuff, and I'm like, can't eat half of this. I was definitely lactose intolerant before going through the testing with fruit as well, but they actually tailor it to you. Okay, you travel a lot, here's links to Amazon for things you can eat that you can keep as snacks in your bag, so you're not getting stuff at the airport or just eating what's available to you. And eat 40 to 50 grams of protein. That's very hard, by the way, before noon.
That is.
because that's going to set up my energy levels and stabilization of my blood sugar. How to start my day with a lot of healthy fats like MCT oil in my coffee and collagen protein and something, if you're into powdered protein of any kind, which I think is a little controversial because of the lead levels right now.
Okay.
They're just very, they help. It sounds like a lot, right? And this is just scratching the surface of the help they've given me.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, but it isn't, because they alter it with your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the amount that you feel better without having to take a prescription, without having to be constantly on drugs, without consistently going back to a medical provider changes your life.
That's
important.
Multiply Kristen by 100, by 1,000, depending on the size of the organization, and the impact that you can make on an organization. Not to take this back to like the holistic, the larger scale healthcare system, but if we can do that, that's why I think that the functional medicine initiative and Root is definitely one of the organizations that we are really, really bullish on. But the ability to go out there and actually impact employees, like that's what an organization wants to do. How attractive is that if you're providing me as an employee with the ability to live a better, healthier, clearer life like what you're experiencing? But also there's a selfish endeavor in it. The employer also sees then a reduction in claims. You're not taking. Many of the people who are out there took the 3 pills that doctor said and then just blindly said, this is what I'm supposed to do. If we can fix that and reverse that and reduce claims because of that, then, what kind of an impact can we make?
The drugs he wanted to prescribe would be upwards of $300,000 per year for the employer cost.
Goodness.
I've been working with Root and I am not on any of those drugs. So just to give you a parallel, that's a high cost claimant versus a healthier, happier, more productive
and your employer
individual.
Thanks you.
Yes, and my employer thanks me, hopefully, for that. But it's like I think there's that element of it, right? Because if you ask any of your clients, any of the prospective employers you're speaking with, they all want to do this for their people.
They do,
but it's hard, right? And they've never had the ability to have that control and be able to be that catalyst for change and that positive aspect for their people.
Yeah.
And then when we start to break down for them, right? Like this is how it is. Like this is peeling back the curtain. You should understand where you are today and this is where you can go. They're also challenged with the complexity. And that's why they have to work with consultants like yourself to help them design things in a way that's going to work for them. But they get to outline, like, let's wipe the slate clean for a second. Forget about your fully insured, level funded, off the shelf. I was going to use a word that I won't, plans that you've been offering your people that aren't really answering to what your people need, helping, like, we can even forget about controlling costs for a second, helping actually people through some of the toughest diagnoses, some of the toughest times they may face, either for them or their family member. How do we help them through that process? How do we give them the right set of solutions? Not everything under the sun that's not that great of a product is what I'll chalk it up to.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, you also save 80% on those claims as a result.
And who doesn't want those circumstances and those outcomes? I'll take this a little bit of a step further, because you had said that the earlier you'd referenced that fully insured plans have kind of this cookie cutter, and I'll paraphrase this poorly, but it's plan A, plan B, plan C. It's not bespoke. I can't do anything. Right. So, but how about this? What if you wanted to take a great solution like this and add it to a fully insured plan? The fully insured plan would say, nope. We don't allow that, the addition of point solutions. Like, it's in the box or it's not.
Yep.
And the inability for you to go out there and then do these great things, which you would think would be in the best interest of the insurance company, but are not, then that's so limiting to an organization. Again, it speaks to the need for people to move to a platform that allows them to start to architect their own world, their own plan. I've said this word too many times, but something that is bespoke to them, that is their plan. And you had referenced that earlier, and it was, I thought that there was like the emphasis. Like, I want it to be my plan, right? I don't want this to be you made a plan and I guess I'll choose one of those. I want it to be like, I have unique employees. I'm a unique organization. I will create a plan that is unique and uniquely successful for our organization.
And for them to be able to do that, and how employers are approaching this, there's a shift happening, right?
Yeah.
They're wanting different solutions. They're wanting to do this, but it's almost like the plan A, B, C options. It's like when you have someone come to your door and say, we're selling solar panels. My boss will be here next week.
Right.
Would you like an appointment on Wednesday or Thursday? My answer is neither, and no thank you, but have a nice day. Right. I'm not going to subscribe to the options that you're at my door with. But a lot of people are going to pick one of the appointments because that's what they've been conditioned and
that's exactly
told to do for so long. Yeah. So it's almost like breaking them out of this, the mental constraint that I hate to say it, the carriers have created around this is all you get. It's even in their, to your point, Randy, it's in their stipulations. If you read their proposal, it says if you add anything, we reserve the right to terminate, retro term your coverage.
That is right.
Basically. That's right. So you will have no coverage going back and won't pay any claims.
Right.
Or we can raise your rates.
Right.
Oh, you want to add root?
Reserve the right to re-underwrite.
Yeah. Oh, you want to add root? Great. We're going to take your rates up by 30% because we can. That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean?
Makes no sense whatsoever. It's just built like we said at the beginning. It's architected by somebody who's just creating this dark nefarious figure that's winning in the complexity, in the over engineering of this system. But the challenge, and we had kind of referenced this before, I think the challenge that we have with organizations is to fortunately, the system is creating a seat that's hot enough that people are getting up out of it. Or willing to get up out of it. But historically, it's been comfortable enough that they were not willing to get up out of it. We're at a place right now where I think we still just need to overcome this stigma that it is too risky, it's too complicated. And I think the organizations that are willing to make that leap look back and go, oh gosh, I really thought this was going to be something different. This is doable. This isn't that risky. In fact, in comparison to the world that I was living in, where on day 120, I got a 50% rate increase and I had no idea if it was going to be 10 or 50 on day 121, right? Like that's risky to me in a fully insured environment. I get no information, no directional kind of projection. And then on day 120, I'm going to get a renewal that could be a 50% increase on a gigantic bottom line item. That feels really risky to me in a fully insured environment. In a self-funded environment, the rates can go like this, and month to month, that can feel a little bit different. But like risky is probably not the right word, because there's greater insulation, especially in solutions like Pareto, where we have the ability to build walls and to have caps on things like ISL and no new lasers. I think we have the ability then to be able to really eliminate a lot of the risk that would be associated with either the fully insured environment, the way I explained it, or a different self-funded environment where you don't have those guardrails.
I couldn't agree with you more. The fully insured plans are, you're buying stop loss technically in there.
You totally are.
But they use your large claims as a reason for giving you the 40, 50, 60% increases.
Yeah.
And that's on your total healthcare expense.
Yes.
Whereas your premiums can be capped. You can truly design a plan to put guardrails around it that answer to what they're looking for. It answers to the employer's risk tolerance threshold as well. They can put that together. They can buy more coverage if they have a lower risk tolerance. Right. But so when you were out talking to employers, Randy, and when we're out doing it together, what is how do you start to try to introduce the conversation to them if they aren't as familiar with self-funding yet? There's a pain point, they want to try to do things differently, but they have to start to understand, how do you approach the beginning of that to start to layer the foundation for them?
It's a good question. I think that it all started a long time ago, from the beginning of when we actually have a conversation with a client about do you want us to be your partner or somebody else? We are really upfront with those organizations about our job is to be a thought leader for you. If that's not a good fit, then we're probably not a good fit. But we will bring things to the table for you and then have an intelligent conversation about what it is. And mind you, there's no panacea. So there's goods and bads and considerations about every different kind of funding methodology. But our job is to bring those to the table for you and educate you intelligently about it so that you have the ability to tell me if that's not a good fit at this point in time. But when we're in that environment and we're expected to be, in fact, we're being hired to be a thought leader for the organizations, then it's incumbent upon us to go out there and actually do that and say, look, I know this is departure from what you've always done and what your other 10 brokers before us always said, but there's a better way. There's a different way, and I need you to understand it. And you'd be surprised how many CFOs or CEOs or CHROs we talk to who say, no, we can't self-fund because 1987 we self-funded and it didn't go well. And then you know what the other question we ask after that? What kind of self-funding did you guys do? And then it's like blank. Everybody assumes that it's like this light switch on, light switch off. You're fully insured or you're not. You're self-funded, like all the claims are yours. And by the way, many of them think that they're adjudicating claims. So there's like a real education process behind, no. Like you're not an insurance company to that degree. We just want you to have some ability to be able to understand where the claims are coming from and to determine where your risk level is, how much do you want to absorb on a per person basis, and move forward with a more customizable plan there. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's really, we start here by saying like our job is to be thought leaders, and then we go be thought leaders and we educate them on what this looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting because you almost have to tailor the approach depending on the employer and whatever their preconceived notions are relating to self-funding or what their experience has been or no experience with it, and layer in the information in a way that they can absorb and understand it and be ready for the next. Because a lot of
absolutely right.
A lot of employers get overwhelmed with this is very complex. To your point, they want to make their widgets, they want to teach their classes, they want to focus on what gets them out of bed every day and gets them excited to go to work. Health insurance and insurance in general is not what they want their day job to be, but it's increasingly becoming the largest expense that employers have to deal with, the top 3 on their balance sheet.
For sure.
So how it's almost like they even when they hit that point of frustration and they start to learn more, they'll get to a point where it's a little too complex and they want to take a step back. So like how do you balance that with them to kind of keep them on the path? It's a longer sales cycle, I think, with employers that you're trying to do that education with.
It certainly is. And I think that there is, for the most part, we will introduce in 1 year through like a very, very rudimentary, like basics of alternative funding and basics of captives, basics of self-funding in general. And that's typically not the year in which that organization is going to say, yes, let me leap forward into this new thing. Because it is. I mean, there's a consideration. And again, we have to understand that they've been doing the same thing for 80 years, for 50 years, for 40 years, right? So it's a lot to overcome. The next year, frequently what we're doing is we're then exploring it. And we'll bring you in, we'll bring folks from say Pareto in, and then have an intelligent conversation around what this looks like. We'll bring them to meetings and let them meet people, and just kind of wash them in the information a little bit more, not with objective, right? Not with bias, but with the intention of just exposure, because that's where I think education comes from. And heck, again, like the person who's really being faced with this gigantic and ever increasing cost needs to understand a little bit more about that. They can't not be educated.
And I feel like they're starting to want to, right? Because like we've looked at this, legislative change needs to happen. But if employers and the people who are being covered are not demanding the change, are not pushing for the change, I don't think employers realize how much power they actually have to not only take control and change the trajectory of healthcare and their healthcare expense, but also change the lives of the people that they're covering and their families. They truly have the power to do it.
Well, they were saddled with the burden, right? ACA says that if you've got 50 or more full-time equivalents, then you now have an obligation to do this thing, which was challenging and maybe punitive to a lot of organizations, but it also did, to your point, put that power right in their hands to be able to go out there. And actually, you know what? Not to say like more burden, but like now we need them to be accountable for that. And you know what? Okay, so flip this around. We need people in this seat, in the consultant seat, to be accountable for it. There's way too many people who are asserting that they are experts in this space and who are benefiting from this space who shy away from the complexities of alternative funding because candidly, it's more complex for them to understand. There is, from a consultant's perspective, a little bit more involvement with monitoring, tracking, explaining claims, and understanding those types of things. So I think a lot of people who are here, like their path of least resistance is the same as the client. And so they're like, oh yeah, no, go back to the fully insured because that works for me really well. I'm fat and happy there too. So I think that, yes, the employer has this accountability and the power to do it. So does a consultant.
They have to work with the right partner in order to do it. So you and your team were early adopters in this, especially for the California market.
Yeah.
What made you want to explore things outside of, and I'll give you mine too.
Yeah. I want to hear yours too.
Okay.
Mine was, it was, I wish it was like more heroic than this. I was really, really frustrated. We are in this industry and we genuinely, like, this is going to sound crazy, but like when I wake up in the morning, insurance is not the thing that lights my fire. Like the insurance contract is not my thing.
I like contracts.
I know you do. And God bless you. We need you. The thing that lights my fire is the people that we take care of. And that sounds fluffy, but it's genuinely the thing. Right. And so as we're looking at organizations who are being like devastated by these gigantic rate increases, I felt limited in power in that I was going back to the clients and saying, you know what we'll do is we'll increase your deductible, increase your out-of-pocket maximum, shift costs back to the employees. And phew, we lasted another 12 months. And that was not a good solution for me. That is you'll get to the end of the cul-de-sac at some point and there's no other way out. You can only go so high in your deductibles, so high in your copays, and so high in your out-of-pocket maximums until there's just no levers to pull. And so we were looking for something that was just better, something that empowered our clients and empowered us to be able to fight back against this system that is crippling our clients. And that's where we decided we want to be really good at this. And the early adopter thing, I think, was just happenstance. We just got frustrated before most people did.
Yeah. That is for when you look at that big of an expense for one of your clients and you feel hamstrung and unable to help them do anything about it.
Yeah.
And you end up being a messenger and hoping that a carrier will negotiate based on whatever amount of rate relief they have in their bank for that month or that effective date. And that's all you're beholden to is passing messages back and forth.
Yeah.
There's no ability to control it. I probably had a similar experience. So I was at United at the time.
Yeah.
I think I was 7 months into a sales role.
Yeah.
And, they start you, they're like, okay, here's your F assignment of a broker list that we've never worked with. Good luck. That was a training. You'll go to a sales university in like a year or so, but like have fun.
Sure.
We built a pipeline for you for 2 weeks as well. What that meant was they were collecting RFPs and no one had responded to them and they were all late. So I just walked into a dumpster fire.
You did. You did.
But those partners that were on that F list at the time, or whatever you want to call them, actually turned out to be great partners over the course of time. They just hadn't been worked with in a way that they wanted to work with people.
Sure.
And so about 6 months in, I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I'm bored. I don't want to sell fully insured plans.
Right.
So I started, and
for the same reason.
I just was like, this is like, I'm just getting rates and sending a proposal. Like, I don't want to send emails. I can have can have my sales associate or a new business coordinator send these out. Like, I don't, and then they want a point off or 5 points off, or it is too repetitive for me. This is not going to work for me.
Right.
But when you are a sales rep at United, you sell all their products. So I could sell UMR, I could sell unbundled, I could sell stop loss, I could sell the PBM, I could sell anything.
Yeah.
So I started going out to these partners and said, okay, we can keep United isn't known for being the cheapest rate from a new business perspective. I think that's still the case. We're playing this game on your spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this differently? They're like, oh, so like ASO. And I'm like, no, let's unbundle. Like, let's focus on the TPI product and let's start designing things. And then all of these, quote unquote, F-list brokers who are now A-list brokers for United, they were like, we have larger clients. This one self-funded or this one needs to transition to X. And we started strategizing on how to design the benefits to actually answer the needs of their clients. So I was almost like an extension advisor for them. And then
what a breath of fresh air for them.
400% to goal.
Oh, there you go.
Implementing that strategy, all unbundled, and then
because you got frustrated with just being a go-between.
I'm not adding any value, and I can't help my partners. They are frustrated with me. I can't do anything that makes any impact to anybody. In a role, just flipping fully insured quotes like that's hard, and maybe it's something that's easy for some people. It was easier for me to start to solution and put together plans through UMR, start working with an ecosystem of partners. And we had one of our leaders who's no longer in that organization come to me and say, Kristen, it's so easy to sell unbundled, self-funded. Like, if you truly want to be a good sales rep, you can tell I'm a big fan of this person. You should sell bundled ASL. I'm like, have you read the PBM contract attached to that?
Right.
And she's like,
the answer is no.
No. Right. I'm like, I'm not putting my name behind that. The PBM gig is up. Like, that's not a product that I align with. I'm like, they're good for you then.
Well, and good for you for having integrity. Right. Not just being a transaction.
No. And the like being that wasn't an environment where there was a sales process where we are, working alongside our advisors. It's just, that's not the environment that you're in with probably any of your carrier partners.
Right.
But I started to make a difference with some of our partners. Then we started going down the path of, curating domestic networks for hospital systems and got really into that niche specialty of unbundled self-funded. But it isn't easier for the consultant.
Certainly
it isn't easier for their team.
Right.
There's solutions coming to market that are helping and making it a little bit easier from like an employer standpoint, but it's harder on the consultant. And that is why people pick the path of least resistance.
I think that's exactly right.
They have to work with the right partner who's going to support them through that, because 99% of that work falls on the consultant and their team.
That is exactly right. That's exactly right. And I don't want to be pessimistic about most people who are in this position, but I think a lot of them avoid it through omission or through some sort of a biased recommendation because of the perception of extra work. Right. When in fact, again, like if our job is to truly help these organizations to attract and retain the folks that they want and to be the best versions of themselves, the best organization that they can possibly be, then we should be looking at long-term sustainable strategies as opposed to like, again, what are we going to do episodically in this next 12 months?
Yep.
That's not, I think we need to be more than that.
Yeah. And finding ways to empower them, right? Because I think we're getting to that point where employers are now demanding, they're getting frustrated. They're getting very frustrated in some instances, and they're demanding something different, and they're demanding change.
That's right.
And that's part of what's going to be a catalyst to driving change in our industry is if you have the people demanding change, and we have employers demanding change alongside all of the good actors in the space.
That's right.
And legislative change to really pull this together to get us to a point where hopefully we can break past this unsustainably escalating cost situation without having any ability to control it in some of the current models that are more prevalent.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It needs to happen. I think we're starting to see some great players come into the marketplace that are going to help that to happen, but it's going to be a Herculean effort.
Yep.
You got to do it.
So Randy, I'm always inspired by our discussions, and I love how you approach your clients, how you approach your prospective clients, and how you center your process around education with them. Is there like a quote or a verse or something that really inspires you, that gets to the heart of you and who you are?
Oh man, on the spot. I'll only use this because I have a great team called the Limitless Team. Shout out to the Limitless Team here at Hub International. And we have a meeting coming up, and I just found the quote that I thought resonated for what we're doing. And it was one that many people have used, but it just resonates with me and probably speaks back to that comment that we just had about all these parties coming together to do the right thing. But it was the quote that alone you can go fast, together we can go far. And I think that truly what we're doing isn't a solo race. The clients need us. We need the clients. We need healthcare practitioners that can help make our people better. We need great partners who can help to insulate and protect the risk that we're willing to absorb as we're trying to solve for this problem. And I think with those components all together, we can do a lot of great stuff. So that's my quote.
And true to who you are, it's a very positive quote. I would even think like a parallel to like Ruth Bader Ginsburg's the biggest menace to freedom is an inert people.
Yes.
Yours is together and going fast. Very positive. Mine's like people need to do something, and we all need to come together and rise up together. So thank you so much, Randy.
This has been fun. Thank you.
Always great. And it flies every time.
I love it. We've been together a while.
We have.
Thank you. Thank you for the
so
time.
Much, Randy. This was
Awesome.
great.
All right. Till next time.